Today on Revisited, we're talking about a country which faced a genocide, as up to 2 million people were wiped out by the Khmer Rouge. From the early 1970s, Cambodia was trapped in a cycle of war, an ideological Cold War battle for or against communism. After the communist sympathiser Norodom Sihanouk was ousted by his own Prime Minister, the US-backed Lon Nol, a civil war raged. Gradually, the communists gained in strength and numbers, the Khmer Rouge taking over large parts of the country. It eventually came to a head in 1975 as the capital, Phnom Penh, surrendered to the Khmer Rouge.
You know, there's no bloodbath in Cambodia. In Phnom Penh, we thought there would be one, but there wasn't. There's only popular enthusiasm, banners and flags, which weren't made this morning. They were prepared days ago.
There followed perhaps the most dramatic and brutal rebuilding of a society ever seen. Phnom Penh was left empty as its people, including the sick and elderly, were forced to march into the country to work in the fields. Money became worthless, religion banned. If you disobeyed the Khmer Rouge under leader Pol Pot, execution likely. Many of the bodies of those who were killed were laid to rest on the plains of the killing fields. It was to continue until the end of 1978, when Vietnam launched a full-scale invasion, toppling Pol Pot just 2 weeks later. Nowadays, Cambodia benefits from relative stability, and 2 Khmer Rouge leaders were even convicted recently of crimes against humanity for their role in what happened nearly 40 years ago. Cambodia, though, remains one of the world's poorest countries. France 24's Cyril Payan revisits Phnom Penh.
It's dawn in the district of Mon Che, south of Phnom Penh. A new day begins for this family, like so many thousands of others in Cambodia.
Already up? Last night I dreamt of my mother. She was trying to find me. She was looking for me everywhere. I saw her, but she didn't see me. It was very real. I have this dream a lot, each time my mother can't find me, and I lose her again.
As far as I know, my husband still has nightmares. Sometimes he tells me he dreams of a child that we have, and this child is stolen from us, and they try to kill him. But this child is his own father.
This is an ordinary Cambodian family, one in which nightmares and the past are constantly breaking into everyday life. Time here moves differently than in other places. A result of it, in effect, being halted in its tracks for almost 4 years under the Khmer Rouge regime. For 35 years, Non Champan has wrestled with these demons. At the age of 8, his father and then his mother were taken from him right before his eyes, in the torture centre S21. He himself is one of the few survivors of the infamous Khmer Rouge prison. For 3 decades, Non Champan has said nothing, not a word about the horrors of his childhood, not even to his wife or 2 daughters. But recently, he decided to open up and begin writing a book about his life.
I never thought I'd have the strength to return to the past. My past under the Khmer Rouge. It was Cambodians killing Cambodians. I didn't think I'd be able to ever tell my children how I felt when I was made an orphan, when I saw my mother killed. If I wrote this book, it's in the spirit of reconciliation, with myself and my pain, and in my country. I want the world to know that even the hell of the Khmer Rouge genocide can be survived.
Since adolescence, Non Champan has made a living where he can. Street vendor, knife sharpener, whatever work he could find. But Phnom Penh in 2014 is changing fast, and Non now works on one of the many construction sites that dot the city.
We are here. We dig, we break. We clear everything to make way for things like these, ready to rise, like this beautiful building. I like that, making new from the old. That way we can start to forget. One day we will all end up forgetting.
40 years have passed. Phnom Penh has long remained prostrate in the face of political turbulence and aftershocks of Pol Pot, the civil war, the violence. But the city took a big step forward in the late 2000s, and it was during these years that Sarah chose to return.
There it is.
Sarah is a son of both Cambodia, where he was born and grew up, and France, where he lived after 1975.
Hello. This was my home when I was a boy. I lived there. He's asking me if I want to buy it.
Sarah's early childhood was spent in Phnom Penh in the 60s. His French mother had left Nice to marry the son of a prominent Cambodian family. As a mixed-race child in the tropics, he was a rare sight at the time.
My bed was there, and that's where I kept my first comic collection.
As a child, Sarah was consumed by magazines sent from France. They offered a window into an exotic, faraway country. But later, while living in Paris, Sarah's artistic work turned back in the other direction, and the tragic land of his youth, Cambodia. An obsessive exploration of an era that began on the morning of April 17, 1975.
The Khmer Rouge came shooting into the air and telling everyone that we had to go home and get our things to be ready to leave. I ran back to tell my dad, and his first reaction was to slap me twice. It took me 30 years to digest those slaps. I couldn't understand his reaction. Finally, I saw that as a child I couldn't understand. But it was because I had just reported a Khmer Rouge order that I was punished like that. For so long I've been angry at him.
Sarah's family, like all French or Franco-Cambodian families in the city, sought refuge, albeit a false one for many, within the walls of the French embassy.
I remember being pushed inside. My father didn't follow us. We went inside without him. It wasn't until later that morning that my father joined us through a different gate there at the back. He stayed 2 days. Yes, from what I recall, it was 2 days.
So are you angry with France?
For the child who's still in me, yes, for not having had the words, the attitude necessary to protect those people who came to the French embassy to escape the Khmer Rouge.
Our look back at the famous and tragic events behind the walls of the French embassy continues with François Panchaud, a French priest who revealed the genocide in Cambodia. Like Sarah, he was also there, besieged by the Khmer Rouge on the 17th of April, 1975.
The expulsion of the population of Phnom Penh was a terrible thing. And then all that happened here. The throwing out of the 7 traitors, as they were called at the time, Prince Sirik Matak, Ung Bun Ho, Miss Manivan and others. And then the worst tragedy. 4 days later, all the Khmers were kicked out. which was simply a complete dislocation and separation of all the French Khmer families. It was a terrible tragedy.
In half a day.
Not even, a few hours.
Yeah, we received the order in the morning and then...
Then everyone had to leave. It's the most painful memory I have from the whole siege at the embassy. Afterwards, we tried to carry on as best we could. We tried to stay, let's say, philosophical.
Yes, as they came, I remember at one point I didn't think we would make it out alive.
It's always been a question mark for me. They could easily have murdered us all. No one would have said anything. The world would have remained quiet.
I believe that too.
Among the Cambodians who were delivered to the Khmer Rouge was Sarah's father. He would never see him again. U Dav was there too, at the same time, the same place, but on the other side of the war, the side of the winners, the Khmer Rouge.
I remember everything. This avenue, there was silence. It was surprisingly quiet. Nothing like it is now. There were bodies everywhere, there on the sidewalks. Poor people. I can't think back to it without regret. But we were the Khmer Rouge. They were our enemies. It was war. It wasn't the same city. There weren't any cars. There was nothing that was moving, no people, no life. There was only death. Everywhere. There was only death.
U Dav was one of the deputies of Ta Mok, known as the Butcher and Pol Pot's military commander, who would alone be responsible for 250,000 executions. U Dav survived. This is the first time he's talked about his past, even with his son.
I was the head of a unit. I had to protect my soldiers. I did my duty, that's it. My only mistake was to have followed the Khmer Rouge in the first place. But what choice did I have? It was for or against the Angkar. There was no middle ground. I regret all these massacres, but I'm a victim too.
An executioner becomes a victim. After the horrors of genocide, everyone is forced to face their conscience in their own way.
I didn't want any of this. I was only following orders. I didn't want to hurt anyone.
I didn't know all that. Now, it's in the past. I can't judge. It's his story. It belongs to him.
I don't have anything to say. I know nothing about the story. I really don't know anything about that.
I knew he'd answer this way. The young don't know about the past.
But Nong Champan's daughters will. For the first time, he is taking his family to S21, the interrogation centre where 14,000 people were killed, including his father and mother, and from which he himself miraculously escaped at the age of 8.
Those, you see, they're there to keep the prisoners from escaping.
Are they new? I hope they're not the same ones used for real.
Yes, don't worry. Look, you see, the ankles were put through there, and then they were locked with a chain.
I've never seen anything so awful.
But you had heard of S21.
Yes, but I never thought it was like that, not with these torture devices.
What's that box?
That was for us to go to the toilet. Next to it, there was something to drink water from.
It's so small. I imagined this place to be bigger.
It was in this cell on the second floor where Non spent most of his time in S21. It was where he saw his mother for the last time.
I'm scared.
What are you afraid of?
I'm scared because I've never seen a place like this.
I feel better. I feel really good to be here with my family. It frees me. I feel ready to face my past and my pain. I'm ready now.
Page by page, perhaps Non Champan's writing of his memoirs will allow him to go back to the source of his nightmares and finally master them. Syrah is preparing to build the first memorial to the genocide, a statue located perhaps not coincidentally in front of the French embassy. An opportunity for Phnom Penh to chart a new course and perhaps one day finally exorcise the demons of its Khmer Rouge past.
Cyril Pine there revisiting Phnom Penh. Well, that's all from this week's edition. Don't forget, of course, you can watch it again on our website. That's france24.com. More editions of the programme coming up, so stay tuned.